Good morning, or good evening, depending on when and where you are currently residing. Today I thought I would try to make a walking skirt using only 2 meters, or in the case of my height, 2 lengths of fabric with minimal wastage. I have this beautiful green 2-layered piece of linen that I thought would make a lovely summer skirt. There are a couple of reasons why that didn't quite work out the way I planned, but more on that a little later. First off, let's talk briefly about the pattern. My plan is to cut off a strip of fabric that is the whole 2-meter length. This will become the waistband, placket, pocket facings, and any other small item that may be required. The rest of the fabric is cut into 2 1-meter long pieces, from which we will cut 1 front piece, 2 side pieces, and 2 wider back pieces with enough room for gathering. The main wastage in this project will come from the bottom of the hem, since the pieces cut diagonally or on the bias will be longer than the cuts on the straight grain. I do not attempt to correct this at this stage, since bias seams stretch, especially if you have sewn 2 sides cut on the bias together. I am planning on dealing with that only after the walking skirt has been assembled and the side seams have been left to stretch for a while. The walking skirt is all straight angles at this point, so cutting them out is fairly straightforward. To stitch up the long seams, I am pulling out my trusty friend Freya to come out and play. Main seams done, I do a quick press and fold over the seams with a hemming stitch. You can see my seam allowances are all really wide here, because the fabric was loosely woven and frayed easily. Such are the risks sometimes when you get most of your fabrics online and are usually too impatient to order swatches ahead of time. Then the skirt was hung for a week to let any stretch that wanted to happen. It is now time for the placket. In this case, a 10 to 12 inch long rectangle is sewn on what will become the side of the skirt opening that is underneath. You can do up the short edges beforehand, but I find it a little less fiddly to attach it first and then do up the short edges. The placket is then folded, like so, pressed and hemmed. Gathering the skirt up into the waistband is up next. Here done in thick black thread and running stitches on only the 2 back panels. Then, rather than trying to match the gathering to my waist size, I simply put on the unfinished skirt and adjust as desired. The waistband is pinned and attached with a back stitch and strong black thread. If you want to make sure your skirt is easily adjustable both up and down in size, fold a couple inches of extra waistband length in. Just make sure you add that extra width to the side where the button will be, and not equally between the button side and the side where you, say, are going to cut a great big buttonhole. Do not ask me how I realized that little piece of obviousness was obvious. On to the closures before we finish off with hemming and pockets. This little cute button came, I think, from a pair of trousers at some point. I don't remember, but it's cute and I only have one, so it's perfect for this kind of thing. I was planning on adding hooks and eyes down the length of the skirt opening as well, but between the placket and the gathers, I found it really wasn't necessary. For buttonholes in general, but especially in fraying and obnoxious fabrics, I like to do a tight row of running stitches around the circumference before I cut. Is this supremely extra and takes extra time? Yup. But I also find that it keeps everything nice and tightly together before the buttonhole stitch, even when I accidentally cut through the thread. Speaking of buttonhole stitches, I am doing mine up in thick black thread and, as is apparently a theme of this project, extra wide stitches to make sure no fraying thread from the loose fabric is allowed to escape. And on the other side, naturally, goes the button. I know I'm adding a thread stem to a button that already has a stem, but it's a habit, don't at me. For leveling the hem, I am afraid I do not have a sneaky secret trick for managing on your own, as I asked one of my pandemic pod friends to come over and give me a hand. A hem marker or dress form would be fantastic, but I do not currently have either of those in my possession. For a little extra pizzazz, I am going to line the bottom of the hem with wide strips of this gorgeous diamond twill linen. I initially got it to make a shirt, but I don't think I'd dare wear something as fine as this on the regular. But as happy details on larger projects, I think it's going to be superb, so I look forward to using it for many other projects as well. As you can see from my cutting, I am simply cutting straight strips of fabric. A, because matching the width and angles of my patternless pieces would be a pain. B, because I wish to be conservative with my fabric use, especially how much cabbage I produce and have to deal with later. And C, folding straight strips of fabric to fit curved hems was seen historically, so why not? The seam allowance on the strips of linen are pressed on either side, before it is carefully pinned to the hem of the walking skirt, while doing our best to shape the strips to the very soft skirt fabric and not the other way around. The overspill on top is pleated as we go as best we can, and everything is permanently attached with a hemming stitch. For the top, you can see that I am being more careful and working on the flat in order to catch only the inner layer of fabric, so that the line is less visible from the outside. You didn't think I would omit the almighty pocket from this project, did you? Let's make a statement with the pockets on this walking skirt and go for double welt ones. A truly terrible idea on a fabric as loose and drapey as this, but you know what? Statement pockets, or something. For a better how-to on welt pockets than what you are about to see, I recommend the video by Last Real Cinema, which I will link to down below. Anyway, I am cutting out 2 pieces of skirt fabric big enough for my hand to comfortably fit through, plus seam allowance. I am also cutting out some of the stiffer diamond linen to help strengthen the drapey skirt fabric. These are pad stitched together before drawing 2 parallel lines about 3/4 of an inch apart, and pin it where you want the pocket. Sew along the lines. Make sure you start and stop at the same length for the best results. Yes, I could use Freya for this, but she had some problems at the time that have since been resolved, so hand sewn it is. Now comes the scary part. We need to cut in between our lines, almost to the end. The last inch or so we cut diagonally towards each seam, but take care not to go too far or cut into your thread. The fabric is then folded inside the skirt and duly pressed. Once our double welt has been pressed, I like to go all the way around the outside with a back stitch to make sure everything stays where I pressed it. pay particular attention to the short ends as they are both the weakest part and the part that sees most wear and tear. Lastly, since the pocket is just a dressed up slit in our skirt at this point, we need to cut some pocket bags, and I have this lovely black cotton sateen that I think will do nicely. I simply fold it double at a width I like and cut out 2 pear-shaped pieces. I then started stitching them together, but realized before I'd gone too far that my life would be a whole lot easier if I made the pocket opening first. Pro tip: do not be as generous with the diagonal cuts as I am being here. The more you know. And then our 2 pocket pieces are sewn together before the ends are folded over and finished. I forgot to film this part, but the top part of the pocket is sewn to the waistband to help divide the weight of any treasure you store inside it. And with that, our new skirt is complete. Perfect for early morning strolls in the forest before the heat of the summer day sets in earnest. The skirt ended up being quite a bit warmer than expected because of the double layer, despite being linen. But hey, live and learn, friends. That's it for this time. Thank you for watching.